The next lecturing will be on English. I hope you understand it. So our next lecturer is Desa Anderson. Should I put this V?
No, it's okay.
So Des is, thank you very much because you came on this event in such a short time notice. So Des is a startup dude. So and he's doing, he's CTO of Learn Upon. You're gonna tell us a little bit more maybe before you start what it's all about. So because I don't know a lot about it. So here you go.
Hi everybody, how are you doing? Yeah, I guess, you know, I don't speak Serbian, or at least učim srpski sad. Ne govorim puno, izvinite, stari kažem. Sa pivom mogu da pričam srpski, samo to. Okay. Yeah, I spent 2 weeks learning that, so okay. So I guess I'm originally from Ireland. I've been living in Belgrade now about 3 years, which is a really sad excuse for my lack of Serbian. But basically in those 3 years we've been building Learn Upon, which is basically our startup. So Learn Upon is in the industry of e-learning. So I want to talk a little bit about what e-learning is, what it really means to different people. There's sort of 2 different sort of sections to e-learning, and then try and talk a little bit about development and things, and try and get into a little bit more technical matters, I guess. So Learn Upon it's headquartered in Dublin, Ireland. I'm basically here doing all the development work, and the idea is that we're trying to build a development hub here in Belgrade to get a load of sort of Serbian ninjas working with us over here. We just find that the people here are just fantastic. These are just great developers. So the idea is just to recruit a lot of people here and really build an amazing team to further the application and build new features and all that kind of good stuff. So what is Learn Upon? What's the whole idea or the premise of it? Learn Upon is cloud-based, okay? So we're hosted up in the sort of Amazon cloud. We use a tool called Engine Yard, and Engine Yard manage basically, I guess Engine Yard are a layer that sit on top of Amazon, and they allow you to manage your web-based application, your deployments and all that kind of stuff. They manage your log files, your databases and things like that. So they give you a really cool sort of UI and things that you can just get in there. You don't really find yourself too much on some sort of SSH connection where you're punching in commands and things. They've got some nice sort of tools that you can use. And Learn Upon is in the business of management of learning. So if you were to think about, I guess, e-learning, you might conceptualize it as a course. Maybe somebody logging on online, doing some sort of exam, getting a pass or a fail, depending on how good or bad they are, and that sort of e-learning. We're sort of on the other side of it. We manage all that. So we allow you to import your courses onto a web application somewhere. We allow you to manage all your users. Those users log in, they take their courses, they pass or fail, they get grades. On top of that, then we give you reports, so you can report on all that type of data. You can pull up sort of graphs and charts and things. And then there's a whole sort of other section about automation. So the likes of sending reminders to learners if they're not doing their courses, or they haven't done the course since they were enrolled. So they get these sort of like emails kicking them to move along and start trying to do their course, okay? So that's what an LMS is. It's a learning management system, and that's what Learn Upon basically is. So we're a SaaS-based, cloud-based LMS, effectively, if that makes sense. I hope I'm not talking too quickly. You know, Irish people have a tendency to talk really quickly, so I apologize. If I'm talking too quickly, just do this and I'll understand, okay? So what are the use cases of e-learning? So it's completely diverse. It can be anything that you can think of. It can be anything from watching a YouTube video to reading a Word document to doing an exam or whatever. It can really be anything. It's very diverse. So as a result, Learn Upon needs to be an application that allows you to import any types of content, so images, Word documents, PowerPoints, PDFs, any of that kind of good stuff, okay? Videos, audios, and so on. So the list is endless. But what is it really used for? And I think the use cases of e-learning are probably the more important parts to it, particularly from our point of view. So our customers are extremely diverse, and they're all over the world. We've got most of our customers, I would say, would be in Europe and the US. We've got a few in Australia and Israel, of all places. So we're quite all over the place. But what companies are doing are they're basically and ultimately trying to save money. That's the whole end of the game. So rather than spending thousands of dollars on hiring some instructor to come to their company or send their staff somewhere for training, pay for flights, pay for food, and all that kind of good stuff, they will purchase a course online from somewhere off the shelf, or they'll hire somebody to develop that course for them. It would be very specific, and then they just deploy that using an LMS to their staff. So ultimately they're saving money, and they're just checking a box. They're training their staff. It's very important, though, in the realm of certification and auditing and things like that. So if you ever have some sort of harassment case within your workforce, you're covered. It's basically about ticking boxes. So I just use a very stupid example here, and it's actually a true story. In the US, they have these diversity courses and things, and basically harassment within the workplace. So for example, if you were standing in an elevator and your colleagues beside you are dating or whatever, they're married, and they start kissing or something like that, you feel uncomfortable by that, and you feel that you're sexually harassed, okay? The companies are educating their staff about that. Sounds crazy, but it's true. They're educating their staff about it, and if they've educated their staff and they can run a report to say, all our staff learned about this, they understand it, so we're not obliged to do anything more. Our staff are trained, and that's it. So it's just ticking boxes. The other side of it is maybe it's quite interesting from our point of view. We've got one customer that uses mind mapping. His specialization is all about mind mapping and how to improve your mind, how to read more quickly, but take that information in more quickly and things like that. So it's a very specialized types of courses, and people are going online and reading these courses and learning how to improve their minds and things. So it's very diverse is more the point. If that makes sense. So if any questions, do feel free to jump in with any questions in the middle if you do have anything. But as I say, the ultimate thing is just about saving money and making money, obviously. So that's what it's all about. So that's what LearnUpon is trying to do. We're trying to enable our customers to save that sort of money and make their e-learning programs as easy as possible to deploy. If we dig a little deeper into what constitutes a piece of content or a course or whatever, this is really where the web development side of things really starts to kind of kick in. So I would say maybe 80 to 90% of e-learning is based around a standard which is called SCORM, which is Shareable Content Object Reference Model. I can't even remember it. And SCORM is basically the e-learning standard. There's authoring tools that Adobe have and things like that, which are effectively, I guess, like PowerPoint on speed, where you can import content, you can do transitions, you can do clicks and things, and there's animations and all that kind of good stuff. But it standardizes your course, and the theory is that course then can then run on any learning management system, so be it LearnUpon or some other of our competitors or whatever it is. So the idea is that companies can purchase those SCORM courses, import them onto their learning management system, and then quickly deploy them out to their staff. So SCORM effectively, again, I would say about 90% of them end up being Flash. It's all sort of Flash based. Now, you might have text in there, and you might have video and audio, but ultimately it ends up being exported from an authoring tool into Flash, which has been fine up until the point where Steve Jobs came along and just screwed it up and got rid of Flash from iPad. Because there's a massive movement going on right now in e-learning to mobile. It's all about mobile. That's the big buzz that's going on. So people want their staff to be able to be sitting on a bus or on a tram or whatever with their iPad doing their courses. They don't want them doing in work and taking up time, right? They don't want them to be doing stuff like that, boring stuff. So they're going to be taking those courses online. So there's a massive movement to try and get rid of all this Flash within the SCORM and use HTML5 and basically different technologies that would allow you to run those courses on an iPad, a mobile device, and so on. So that's quite a large challenge that's going on right now. SCORM is quite old. It's taken about 10 years to mature. It is quite it's a very old standard. And through that time, sort of all the bugs have been fixed, and all the learning vendors like LearnUpon have, tried to make it work, fix all the bugs, make everything as smooth as possible. And now we're trying to contend with all this new sort of transition into HTML5, which creates problems ultimately. So I guess for LearnUpon, the biggest drivers for us, obviously we are a startup. We started up in Dublin in 2011, and we took the approach of basically having firstly an alpha release, which was basically getting about 5 or 6 customers on board using LearnUpon for free. And we took the premise that we would take their feedback and build LearnUpon into a beta from that. So all along, LearnUpon has sort of evolved by using customer feedback. We didn't sort of try and shove down our ideas into the customer's mouths, basically, and saying, this is what you want, this is the way you're going to use it. We sort of took the reverse, and it's worked out really well. And I'd certainly encourage, I guess, any startup, anybody that is thinking of doing that, would be to listen to your customers. I know it sounds so obvious, but it's working so well for us. The second driver is that as soon as a customer support ticket comes in, everything gets dropped. That's it. We will solve that. Our response times are super quick. And again, it's just really working for us. People would tend to choose us just because of support. It doesn't really matter if the application maybe only does 80% of what they're looking for. Ultimately, they sort of know that we have their back. The application is solid. If they have an issue, we'll solve it for them and work with them until it's solved. So that's the biggest thing that we found as a startup. You know, you've got a lot of things and a lot of challenges when you're trying to do a startup. Obviously, there's money, getting the right staff and all that kind of thing. But I think if you can really nail down and make sure you're looking after your customers, I mean, those are the people that are paying for your application. So that's the most important part. So I guess LearnUpon, what's the sort of technology? We chose Ruby on Rails, which I guess is analogous really to what we were just talking about previously, like PHP. It's a server-side sort of technology that allows you to develop an application extremely quick. So literally within 2 years, we've developed LearnUpon using Ruby on Rails, and it sort of gives you everything for free in a matter of speaking. So out of the box, a Ruby on Rails development environment gives you a development and a staging or testing and a production environment. It just manages that for you without you really having to think about it. So the example of that is that if we want to deploy a change release or a feature release onto our Amazon servers or whatever, we literally do that with one line of a command on a command prompt, and that's it. It manages everything else for us. So it does all our configurations, it does all our database migrations, our upgrades, downgrades, whatever it is that's going on, and that's it. Okay, so it's extremely quick. You don't have to worry about all the sort of intricacies about database tables. Are you upgrading them properly? Have people developed the scripts for you and so forth? It gives you all that sort of stuff for free, and you don't really have to worry about it. So ultimately, you can concentrate on your application, you know, and making it as best as you can, and as best for your users as you can. So I guess what tools have helped us? The two things, just going back to the point about looking after your customers, there's two things that we use which I don't think we could live without. Not necessarily related to Ruby on Rails, but we use one tool which is called New Relic. I'm not too sure if you're familiar with it, I'm sure you are at some point, but basically New Relic is an online tool that plugs into your web-based application. And it gives you a really nice overview of all the stuff that's going on in that application online. So it will tell you your performance, where it's good or where it's bad. It will highlight for you exactly the lines of code that are causing you problems. What are the lines of code that are causing memory spikes? It will show you the SQL that is the slowest, and it will show you exactly the piece of SQL that ran when a page rendered really slowly. And you can define what slowly is. So you can define what's called an appdex. And they have all these default settings, which we literally haven't changed. So it's just, you don't really have to think about it. New Relic does most of the stuff for you. But it gives you all these alerts. So if your application is running, you get little alerts on your iPhone or on your email and things, and it says, hey, this customer just viewed your dashboard and it took them 5 seconds to load the page. Here's why it took 5 seconds. So we can quickly go and render that and fix that. It's extremely quick. The second tool that we use is a thing called Airbrake. And again, not too sure if you're familiar with it, but it's a really cool tool and very simple to use. So basically, Airbrake, again, plugs into your application. And effectively what happens is that if your application catches some form of, let's say, null pointer exception, okay, something that's really just disastrous, you know, and it ends up with those really stupid 500 error codes on your web pages, and the customer is just going, well, what's going on? They don't really know what's happening. Airbrake sort of manages that for you. So firstly, it will catch your null pointer exception. It will figure out where it happens, the lines of code. It will give you a stack trace, and it emails all that information to your development team. And then it gives a nice sort of friendly page to the user saying, we've been notified, oops, an error has occurred, we'll be in touch with you soon. So basically the approach we can take is that we very quickly, we can see where that error was, we fix it straight away, and we'll deploy it with our little one line of command line tool up onto Engine Yard, and it's done. So effectively you can email your customer and say, you know, I saw that you were trying to do something on the application, it failed, here's why, we've just fixed it, so you can go try it again. And it's another thing that's been working really well for us, because the customers are amazed. They're like, how the hell did you know that? You know, I only did that 15 minutes ago and you've already fixed it, you know. So those kind of things are really powerful and very simple, very, very simple to implement. So I'd highly recommend those kind of things. But on the other side, Ruby on Rails gives you a lot of sort of plugins. And what's called gems. They're called Ruby gems, okay? And there's just thousands upon thousands of them out there. Literally, you can search on GitHub. There's different sort of websites, and it's all sort of open source. You can see all that code that people are generating. They're all for free, which is just amazing. And if you want to do something within a web application, you'll pretty much find a Ruby gem that's already been written to do it for you. So, for example, we use a thing called Paperclip, and Paperclip allows you to quickly attach information from your web forms, so be it images or documents. So you can imagine it's quite important for us to be able to upload documents and easily manipulate images and things like that for course content. And Paperclip allows you to do that literally with a line of code. Okay, it's really that simple. So it will take your image or whatever the person is uploading at the time, bring it onto your server, do whatever server-side manipulation you want to do, and then pushes that right over onto your Amazon cloud. So it does it all for you, literally like that, with one line of code. That's pretty cool. That's pretty amazing. There's another gem, for example, called Delayed Job, and Delayed Job is responsible for managing any large background processing that you want to do, for example. So in Learn Upon, if you imagine we might be having a user, an administrator might go into Learn Upon and upload a file of, let's say, 1,000 users that they want to import. So they're migrating their users from some sort of database. And what will happen is we'll just go, okay, great, your file was uploaded. We'll email you once the job has been finished. And Delayed Job, again, with literally one line of code, will manage that for you. It will go and create a back-end process to go and process the file and email and so forth the user when it's all done, and email errors and things. So you can really sort of concentrate in on the logic of your application. You don't have to worry about sort of creating cron jobs and all that kind of nasty stuff to go and figure out where the files are and things. It sort of does all that for you for free. So I think that's the sort of beauty of Ruby on Rails. Myself and the guys, when we started developing Learn Upon, we didn't know a single line of Ruby on Rails. I came from a Java background. The other guy came from ASP, and the other guy from PHP. So we sort of thought, well, let's just choose Ruby on Rails. None of us know it, so let's go with it. So literally, we learned it from scratch, and it was extremely easy to learn, particularly if you do have a background with PHP or JSP or whatever it is. It's very similar. Okay. So I guess maybe I can try and show you some examples just on Learn Upon about how some of this stuff works. But so the other nice part about Ruby on Rails is, and particularly for a learning perspective, it gives you localization built straight into your application. So in other words, you don't have to worry. Learn Upon comes in Spanish and French and German, and we could very quickly do that. We didn't have to worry about the management of all those different languages. And literally, we've got it to a stage where we can send a file to a translation company. They'll send it back in the language that we requested, and we can have Learn Upon in that language within 10 minutes. It's really that simple with Ruby on Rails. So the way that we've architected it, and things like that. It just makes it so easy. It's extremely easy. So let me just show you, I'll just try and show you quickly how some of this stuff works. Okay, so this is, I guess, like a typical view. You can see that. It's a typical view of a dashboard within LearnUpon. And the dashboard is where the learner logs in, okay, and they get their list of courses basically here. So it's all about showing progress and all that kind of stuff. You know, what have you completed? Whereabouts are you in your course? When did you access it last? And so forth. But just to show you, I guess, how some of this stuff combines with Ruby on Rails. All the parts of the UI are quite dynamic in the sense that it's all Ajax driven, pretty much. So any sort of data that's loading, so any of these kind of clicks here that I'm doing will be pretty much loading everything using Ajax. And Ruby on Rails does that extremely nicely. So if I can just maybe just show you an example of that. If this will work. Okay, so this one to sort of illustrate just how some of the architecture parts fit in. Ruby on Rails just fits really nicely with jQuery, okay? The two of them sort of sing and dance together quite well. So if I was to do something like this, if I was to click here, just so we can see some of the information coming in. So as I say, this is being loaded dynamically. So what we see here in the console for Chrome, for example, it's showing one of those Ajax requests that's being made into the server, okay? So the idea is that the on-click event, so using jQuery, for example, you'll bind a click. So the click will then call LearnUpon and say, hey, for this user, give me the list of the courses that they're currently enrolled in, and give me some information about their enrollment date, the date they last entered, and so forth, okay? And what Ruby on Rails does is it acts as this model view controller. So it calls your controller, it'll figure out what information you're looking for, it'll go off to the model, it will figure out, okay, here's your data, it'll run some SQL for you, and effectively call back onto a view. And the view you can write as what's called a JavaScript, basically, scriptlet, okay? And it will literally return jQuery stuff with all the bits in there that will help you render this panel. So the jQuery on the browser side just takes that and then just renders that as a particular panel. So you've got extreme flexibility there in those cases. Everything that's going in here, so if for example what this line of code here is doing, it's saying basically pick a panel with this ID on your screen and fill it with this HTML, okay? And the HTML in there is formatted by views. So you've got these sort of nicely formatted and indented views within your development tools and libraries and things. So you don't have to worry about all that. Ruby on Rails will go and escape everything. So you can see the sort of \ns and things like that. So it will do all that automatically for you. You don't have to worry about if you're escaping your data properly. Are you exposing yourself to the likes of SQL injection attacks and all that kind of thing? You can just literally more or less forget about it. There's places where you don't, but you can more or less forget about it. I guess another nice sort of utility where we've sort of implemented a lot of jQuery, okay, and the likes of what I was talking about with paperclip and uploading images and so forth and image manipulation. Let me just close this. So e-learning it's heavily built around, it's not just courses, okay, so employers want their employees to have little certificates and things so that when they finish their course they can download a PDF with a nice certificate on it and they can print it and hang it on their fridge at home, do whatever it is that they want with it. This is not loading too well, but the idea is that using Ruby on Rails we could very quickly build a UI where you can upload an image. Using paperclip you can quickly manipulate that image server-side into different versions of the image. So you can do thumbnails, you can do a slightly smaller version and then a larger version, which is the sort of the high resolution, high def image that you're going to use on your particular certificate. What we did is we bolted onto that, there's also a gem called Minimagic, okay? Minimagic allows you to manipulate images extremely quickly and very, very powerfully. So you can literally pick out pixels in your image with some Ruby on Rails code and change the colors of those pixels. You can write text into the image. You can put labels on it and things like that, you know. So it's extremely powerful. I'm just sorry that this isn't loading up. I'll just try and load this again. All right, I'll move on. It's not too happy. Okay. So I was talking a little bit about, I guess, Airbrake and New Relic, which are the other tools that sort of help you within your application. The other one, if you're not familiar with it, is BrowserStack. So if you go to browserstack.com, you can sign up there. And what BrowserStack does is it gives you access to a virtual environment of browsers. So you can choose whatever OS you want, whatever browser version you want, be it IE6 on Windows XP or whatever it is, and it will give you access to that browser. So you can quickly go and test your web application using that particular browser. We found that, again, is just extremely powerful, particularly across the e-learning sort of landscape. We've got people that are using extremely modern browsers like the likes of Chrome and things like that on Mac and so forth, all the way back to Windows 6 on a who knows what type of machine. So we found that rather than having all these sort of virtual environments set up where we can test, just BrowserStack will give you access to that. So I thought it's just another nice tool from a web development perspective. I think is quite useful if you're not using it. Okay, so the only other thing that I wanted to show you really around that, I guess, and I'm just trying to see if I can get to it here. I was hoping the browser would work a little bit better, but I'll try it again. Okay, here we go. Or maybe not. Yeah, I think it's fine. Okay, so I guess the other sort of major part that we really put a lot of work in to learn upon was the idea of controlling or basically evolving the application with your users. So if your application tends to become extremely sort of clunky and full of sort of loads of stuff that people just don't need. So what we've done is with the web app itself is we've taken the approach that when you sign up to Learn Upon, you don't get everything out of the box. We leave it up to you to start choosing what you want. And typically we found that users, they'll only turn on what they sort of realize that they know about, or if they're specifically looking for something, then they'll come along and turn it on. So as a result, it allows the application, I guess, to evolve with the person. We don't throw loads of stuff on the screen that the users don't really need. What we do is we just allow them to turn that on as they need it. And again, that's worked really quite well for customers. They find that the application then, as a result, is very clean. They don't have to worry about all these loads of different buttons on the screen that they're never really going to use. Okay. So what we did was we ended up developing just literally one settings page, and we've all these various different panels just to control the different pages. Okay. So they can turn on e-commerce if they want. If they don't need it, they can just disable it and turn it off. They don't even have to worry about it. Okay. The likes of the dashboard, which we were just looking at, we allow them to control the various different panels and so forth. So I guess it's very similar to the likes of like WordPress or whatever. You know, you can highly configure it and put in different plugins. So it's that type of approach. So I guess just from a course's perspective, within e-learning, all the sort of the good stuff, I guess, goes on when you're creating a course. But just to show you some examples of how that would work and with regards to technology that's being used. So everything within the course is going on here on this content panel. So the idea is that from an e-learning perspective, you'd want the ability to be able to add in a module. So you want to be able to add a page and a video and all that kind of stuff to your course. You might want to add exams or a survey and things. I think most of the interesting things really go in around a module. So in this case, let's just add a module. I'm not too sure actually. Do you have a video on the desktop or on the machine that I can show an example of? There's nothing. Okay, never mind. So the idea is that there's two different tools that we implement here, which would be worth mentioning. We allow you to upload documents. So I can show you maybe just an example of this. So there's a tool called Crocodoc, okay? And Crocodoc is a web service type thing that you can plug into. They have an API, which again plugs in really nicely to Ruby on Rails. And what you can do is effectively upload a document, which should be going up there now. And what you do is you push the document to Crocodoc, and Crocodoc will convert any document into a HTML5 version. So straight away you can deploy that onto your mobile applications and so forth, okay? And they manage all that for you. So once your document is uploaded, they will go and process that for you. So what happens is the document goes out to Crocodoc, and they'll start processing that. And once it's finished, they'll just ping your server to say, hey, the document that you submitted is done. Here's the little sort of job ID that lets you know what job it was that you were trying to process, and then that's it, it's done. So it's been really powerful for us. It's allowed us to implement everything from Word documents to PDFs and so forth. So Crocodoc is certainly one tool that we wouldn't be able to live without. For videos and audios, I was hoping to maybe show you an example of that. But basically it works in very much the same way. There's a tool called Zencoder, which again I highly recommend. So Zencoder very much operates in the same manner. So you can upload a video straight away through their API, and you can tell their API, okay, well I want an MP4 version and I want an OGG version or whatever it is of that video. They'll automatically configure it for you, convert it for you, and push it back over to your cloud, basically, to your Amazon servers. And from there, you effectively have any video encoding that you want, and you can just plug that straight into the browser, okay? So it's very, very powerful. So Crocodoc and Zencoder, again, I'd highly recommend. I would have liked to show you some examples here, but unfortunately I just don't have the media to upload. So is there any sort of questions, I guess, on that, or any thoughts? Can anybody understand me? That's what I'm afraid of.
Well, you described this procedure with uploading documents external services. We develop own services for conversion and everything. Is that part of your business model? I'm considering will clients, for example, users will complain about it that you're using some external services for that.
Right, I get you. Yeah, no, it's a good question. No, so far they haven't. In most cases, it's sort of hidden from them. So when they upload a video, they're not aware that, let's say, we're sending a video to Zencoder to be encoded and then back again. So it's sort of hidden in the application. The only place where it would come up is with Crocodoc. So you can see there, they have the little Crocodoc logo. But you can pay for a white label version of it. So we just haven't done it purely as a startup. You try and save your money where you can. So until somebody would complain about it, then yeah, maybe we would say, well, if you pay us extra, we can white label that for you. You know, you won't see the little Crocodoc logo. But yeah, no, it's a good question. But no, not really, not so far. The biggest problem with that type of model is that if let's say the document upload fails or the video upload fails, it's your fault. It's Learn-Upon's fault. You can't say, oh, well, you know, our encoding processor, they're terrible. Like, you know, you can't sort of lean on them and say, well, that's their problem. You know, so you can't really use that excuse. You know, it's ultimately you need to look after that and figure out what's going on. That's probably the biggest problem with it, you know. So if their service is bad or their service goes down for whatever reason, or there's a maintenance and things, it affects your SLA, it affects your uptime and things like that, you know. So that's probably the biggest problem with that type of model.
So what if they start to charge for their services? Then you have to change the price of those and employees
Yeah.
to charge for their services, then you have to change your pricing model or something.
Exactly, yeah, exactly, yeah. So
What about the pricing business model? How
Mhm.
are you going to charge for it?
well, what we do is all it's sort of, we've done a lot of analysis on it. So basically, Learn-Upon fits from a starter up to a platinum plan. So there's 5 plans, and we typically find that the people that are using a lot of videos and things, let's say, for example, the video is the most expensive type of content. the videos themselves would more or less fit into the silver, gold, or platinum. So in those senses, we're covering the costs. Okay, so the likes of Zencoder would pay by, they charge by the minute of encoding that you're doing. But the charges are totally minimal, you know. It's not really something that to talk about. And if you're using Amazon for storing all your content, again, the charges are absolutely minimal. You know, it's sort of like 0.0001 cent per megabyte that's transferred across the networks and things. So it's not really something that you'd be concerned about, at least not right now. You know, so it fits quite well. We're finding that we're basically the cheapest LMS out there. That's our sort of premise behind everything. So we give amazing service for the cheapest amount of money, and we're still finding that we're covering those costs, like our Amazon costs and things like that. We're able to manage it, you know.
If you get more clients, do you plan to develop some of those plugins?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, definitely, yeah. So the plan would be to as I say, like we're currently looking at getting people here and building a really core team, and the idea would be to basically write all these plugins ourselves. So get rid of Crocodile, make everything in-house, you know. So we're plugging into Crocodile for documents, we're plugging into Zencoder for those types of things, audio and things. Those are probably our two main crutches that we're standing on right now. So if we could replace those, it would be fantastic, you know.
What stage are you now? How many customers do you have? You making money?
Yeah. No, thankfully, yeah, we broke that sort of bubble. So we're about now invoicing about 50 customers right now, and some of them are per month. We do offer a yearly plan, so you can pay yearly in advance and get a 10% discount. That's how we've sort of done those. So they do tend to tie people in, you know. It's worked quite well. And we allow people to upgrade the plans. So the plans are all sort of based on usage. So I can show you that maybe, but probably illustrate it a little bit better. I'll just wait for that to load. But basically, yeah, you'll see here from the pricing plans that we offer. Basically, we offer two different sort of calculations. It's based on the number of active users per month. The highest plan being, let's say, 2,000 active users per month. So if a user logs in, you've sort of used up one of your users. They can launch as many courses as they want. They can launch as many videos and pull videos from your Amazon buckets and things. But really, it's all around usage. So user logging in. We'll just go here. And the other pricing metric that we have is portals. So the idea is that you can sign up to Learn Upon, and that's your main portal. But you can, if let's say you're a training company and you want to sell your courses to other companies. So we've got customers that they develop the courses themselves, but they sell those courses to other corporate companies like Coca-Cola or Pepsi or whatever. And they're allowed to create their own sort of mini portal within their own management. So they can manage all those portals and all those users themselves just through their one sort of sign up. So it's the idea of portals and users. Let's try and load that again so you can see it. I'm not having much luck with that. But yeah.
Sell your application to business users or to just single user that like to...
Yeah, I know what you mean. We actually do both. So we offer Learn Upon to corporates, just to businesses directly. And we also allow just other users that want to resell on Learn Upon, let's say, for example, to their own user bases. So we sort of try and tackle the two. I don't know, to be honest, what would be best. We just try to sort of cover both avenues. We find that both sorts of channels work well, you know. I'm sorry, that's not loading for us. that's not happening, is it? I can talk a little bit, I guess, a little bit quickly just around some of the Amazon stuff that we use if anybody's interested in hearing it, but I am conscious of time. I don't want to be talking too much and sending you asleep, so. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Paula.
Can you have a little bit of applause for this? Okay, people, that is it. Now you can start networking and having fun with the beer. We don't have a cups for the water and yeah, okay, now we see the prices. You're bloody too expensive for us. No. Okay, take the beer and go. There's no cups for water or juice, so better take the beer. Thank you.